Russia's massive invasion of its democratic neighbor, Ukraine, has drawn sharp condemnation from all over the world. Here in New York, Ukraine's UN ambassador turned directly to Russia's ambassador last night and said this, quote, "There is no purgatory for war criminals. They go straight to hell." Join us now with some perspective is Ian Bremmer, the president and founder of Eurasia Group and GZERO Media. Good morning, Ian. How are you doing?
Good morning to you. Good to see you guys.
So you called this a moment, a turning point in global order. You said there will be thousands of innocent civilian lives that will be at cost. Where do you see this going?
This is now a Cold War between the United States and all of its allies, very unified on this issue, and Russia. And that means we're cutting off diplomatic engagement. We're cutting off economic engagement. For the last 30 years, no one was living through a Cuban Missile Crisis moment. No one thought that you had the potential for military confrontation in Europe anymore. That is gone today. You have 200,000 Russian troops that have been built up and arrayed all along Ukraine's borders, and they are now invading, and they are going to be massacred.
Does this have to be another Cold War? It's an elementary question, but I think it's probably in the minds of many Americans as they wake up this morning. Do we have to contest this taking of Ukraine or potential taking of Ukraine?
I think we do, because I think that we worked over the course of the last several months to tell the Russians very clearly and in a united fashion that an invasion of Ukraine, while we would not defend them directly, we considered them a legitimate democracy. We believe in their self-determination. That means that we have already sent them a significant amount of war material that they are using to defend themselves. We have sent troops to the front lines in the Baltic states, in Poland, in Romania, in Bulgaria. NATO is now going to have functionally a border right up against a hostile Russia-controlled Ukraine. And there'll be partisan fighting on the ground in Ukraine. I think it's incredibly hard, given Putin's decision, to put this genie back in the bottle.
Putin says that he's not intending to occupy Ukraine. He just wants to demilitarize the country. What does that even mean?
It means he's lying. Putin has told us for the last 2 months, he's told Biden, he's told Macron, he's told Schultz, he's told Johnson, that he has no intention of invading Ukraine. He's lied in consistent and staggering fashion, and so tragically for the Ukrainian people. They're now saying they have no intention to occupy Ukraine, but Russia has already said that they consider that the Ukrainian nation is a part of Russia. It is very clear that they intend to overthrow this Ukrainian government, and they intend to integrate it in some way within a broader Russian structure.
If another country interferes, Putin warned consequences greater than any have seen in history, any of you have seen in history. Is that an overt nuclear threat?
I guess it is, but it's cheap, because the United States and all the NATO allies have already made very clear to President Putin that they will not put troops on the ground to defend Ukraine itself. It's not a member of NATO. It has no membership action plan. What Putin is saying is that this country is mine. I am taking it. I am working to reintegrate Russian empire. Keep in mind that Putin has said on the record many times that he considers the dissolution of the Soviet Union to be the greatest geopolitical tragedy of the 20th century. And he believes that it is his legacy to reverse that. That is the message that he is presently sending, and he's willing to spill Russian blood, never mind Ukrainian blood. We've already seen planes get shot down over the last 24 hours. I mean, there's going to be...
get shot down, right?
Absolutely. I mean, this is Putin saying, I am going to make it my legacy.
By any means necessary.
By all means. That's right.
Now, you've also said that they have turned into an international pariah, a pariah that occupies a lot of the economic space globally. And now, how do you go about crippling Russia's economical infrastructure without taking down the international economic balance?
Well, 2 points. First, it's going to be very costly, particularly for the Europeans. The United States have very little dependence economically on Russia, but the Europeans, in terms of gas, in terms of trade and agriculture, in terms of investment from oligarchs, that's going away. So you're going to have significant spike in gas costs for the Europeans. You'll have shortages. This will probably have an impact of, I'd say, 1 point of GDP on much of Europe, minimum, over the course of the year. But beyond what you do to Russia, there's also the question of how does this affect China? Right. Because the Americans are putting sanctions on Russia, and the Chinese aren't going to want to break those sanctions, which is why the Chinese have been critical of increasing sanctions. Final point is sanctions can only do so much. Putin knows what's coming. He knew it was coming yesterday. He knows what's coming today. The maximum level of U.S. and European sanctions that will go on Russia, and they're the biggest sanctions that will ever have been imposed on a major power post-Soviet collapse, will be less than what we've seen, or roughly about what we've seen on Iran.
So if sanctions can only do so much, how far should the U.S. go?
I think you still have to go there.
You still go there.
You still go there, but is that
What does
enough?
go there mean, though?
Well, go there means that Nord Stream 2, the pipeline with Germany, it's cost $11 billion to build, is dead. It will not be used by the Russians.
But Ian, let's cut to the chase here. I mean, legally, we have no obligation right now to protect Ukraine. We don't have to be involved at all.
That's right.
But we have NATO partners that are on the border of Poland. Poland borders Ukraine. And then there are the Baltic states, former Soviet states.
That's right.
In your view, Putin wants those back. So do you think this war is coming to NATO? As a hot war?
I don't believe that, but I believe that Putin will sense weakness and division, and he'll play on it. And one of the reasons why you have to go there in maximal fashion with the sanctions is because you're protecting the Baltic states, you're protecting Poland. If the Americans were now to say, we need to be able to do business with the Russians, the Europeans say the same thing, you could break NATO. I mean, I've had those conversations directly with the leadership of NATO in the last several days. I was just at the Munich Security Conference. Like, the NATO is incredibly unified right now. That is the one silver lining that you can take away from all this. There are very few.
Okay. Ian Bremmer, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Guys.